So you find yourself in the silence. You find yourself in the silence of being. There's not some one being. The being doesn't speak about itself as someone. It's just being. When we look outside, in the play of the world, there is a sense of being someone. When the attention turns within, there is no one. There is just the simple being. You are the being, just being. You're not someone who is being the being. The someone is gone in the recognition of just simply being. And you find yourself in the silence. You don't find yourself in the play of the world. You don't find yourself in connection with anyone. You find yourself in the silence, in the stillness, in that which never moves and changes. You are not the doer. You are not the one that has all these things to do. All of that is just happening, and it's completely irrelevant. But if you do not know the silence of being, that is everything, you will feel like the doer, and you will feel like you are busy, and you will feel like there's all these things to do, and you will give importance to the play of the world and completely miss the importance of yourself. You are not the doer. You are the stillness, the silence that never moves and changes. You are always here, always the same, never ever going anywhere, never ever moving in any way. A consistency, a stillness, a silence, an immaculate openness. It does not waver. And this simple silent being is naturally aware, awake and aware of the moving, changing, and yet so focused upon itself. When the focus of awareness rests, when attention rests, the knowing is of yourself. When the focus of attention is resting on even being aware of objects, still a little shakiness, still a pull to be distracted, still the pull to be the me. It is just to rest as the aware being that is ever aware of the moving, changing. That the one that imagines they can do something can do nothing. It is just to be aware of the one that imagines they can do something and see, illuminate. Seeing is illumination, bringing clear illumination. That the one that imagines they can do something better, do something right, they cannot. This is not a play of opposites. This is not a play of somebody doing something, living a life, collecting experiences for the me. It's all a movie. It's all a reflection of the mind. And the opportunity is to catch this and to see that nothing matters. No experience in the illusion, in the play of the world, has any more relevance or importance than any other. And it is not a play of opposites. It's not a play of right or wrong, good and bad. that is all taking place in the imagination of time. The only purpose of the play is to see through it, is to see clearly the reflection that is being offered, to recognize that there is a longing for freedom, a longing for love, for happiness, a longing for the immovable, unchanging naturalness of being, a longing really for silence, for stillness, a longing to just be yourself. And in the longing to be yourself, if there is a looking to fulfill this longing in things, then it will feel elusive and disappointing, because you cannot find yourself in things. You cannot find yourself in the movie that your mind is creating, because the movie that your mind is creating, that you call my life, is just a reflection of limitation. Everything that brings stress, resistance, upset is just a reflection of limitation and an opportunity to open into the remembrance of the unbounded openness that is the true nature. The play of life will move in all of the ways out of the intelligence of consciousness to create the exact appearance of everything that is needed to bring forward a reflection. When the reflection is something that the me likes, the ego protection rests and says, oh yeah, things are going my way, I like this. But sooner rather than later, things will shift, because the play of the world is a play of opposites. And so what feels like this is good will turn into this is not so good. What feels like I'm having a great time, there's a lot of pleasure and joy here, will turn into I'm not having such a good time and I'm feeling a little disappointed, right? Because it's a cycle. And if we are attached to pleasure, if we are attached to being right, if we are attached to one side of the imbalance, then the balance will have to switch. And we will find the opposite of what we are attached to. And we will have to swallow that opposite in order to rebalance and come back to the remembrance of what we have always been. The curious and beautiful grace of it all is that in truth you never move and change, that it doesn't actually matter what happens in the play of life. It matters not one iota what happens in the play of life, because you already are everything that is longed for. You already are perfection. You already are the great shining radiant light, the ocean of divine bliss. But if you don't know that, then life can feel miserable and hard. And it is that life is a constant invitation to remember the bliss and the beauty that you are, to remember the freedom of the silent being that you are, so that life can truly be lived from a true and clear perspective, can be lived in and as freedom, can be lived in and as love, joy, delight, awe, wonder, and essentially the simplicity of bliss just flowing within itself. That nothing is ever outside of this bliss. Nothing is ever as it seems to the mind. There are no opposites. There are no good happenings, no bad happenings. It doesn't matter what is happening. That whatever seems to be happening, you find the refuge in God. You find the refuge in love, because everything else is a play of fear. The reflection of my life is a reflection of the fears. It is a reflection of the patterns of limitation in consciousness. It is a reflection which is offering not an unkind experiencing of hardship and misery. It is an opportunity that is a graced offering to receive all of the patterns of limitation and really to just accept life as it is unfolding, that there is a life living itself out, but that you are not that life. You are not that one that imagines my life. You are not the one that suffers. You are not the one that struggles. You are not the one who finds there to be intensity. You are the one and only undivided wholeness. And everything is conspiring for this remembrance to dawn, to be recognized, to be here in the simple silence of being. That to find the silence is to find yourself, and to find yourself in the silence is to find the glory of God. It sounds incredibly simple, and it is incredibly simple. But the mind and the me is so habituated to complexity, so habituated to keep looking outside, so habituated to playing the role of a doer, so habituated to a world of seeming opposites, that the me is trying to win, trying to be good, trying to be right, trying to win this game of life. But there is no right and wrong. There is no winner and loser. There is no good and bad, just as there is no victim and no perpetrator. There is just this moment, just as it is. And in the stillness, in the silence, every being has the precious possibility to remember. It is just to be still enough, silent enough, here enough, now enough, as the presence of being to remember. That this being never moves, this being never goes anywhere, this being never changes, this being is always just as it has always been. And so too, of course, then are you as the being. Everything that happens that is a play of my life is a reflection and a graced opportunity to receive all of the places of struggle and challenge and resistance, to be able to receive the unraveling of the patterns of stress, the patterns of limitation, in order for life to flow as itself in its natural, unlimited, easeful, smooth openness. The glory is here. The glory is the silence. You are the silence. You are not someone that is sitting in silence. You are the silence itself. You are not someone that is looking for freedom. You are freedom itself. You are not someone that is having an experience of being still or an experience of being anything. This is where the trouble starts. As soon as you are someone that is having an experience of something, there's someone having an experience of something. This is not reality. And it is really all about discovering that reality is right here. Reality is the unmoving, unchanging naturalness of simply being. Reality isn't the story. There's nothing real about the story. It's just a movie. It's just a projection of the mind consciousness. Essentially, it is a projection of patterns of limitation, but we take it very seriously and we get very involved and very addicted to engaging in this story and being attached to things, being attached to people, being attached to relationships, being attached to all of the things that are in truth not really very relevant at all. But we spend so much time doing all of these things in order to keep everyone happy, to keep our world safe and secure, in order to maintain relationships, in order that we don't lose the connection of a love that isn't real, so that we may be affirmed and validated by people that don't actually offer us anything apart from a reflection of our limitation. So it's a bit of a farce, really, the life in the human condition, because we are trying so hard to be seen, to be validated and affirmed in a way that will never ever feel whole. It will always be a farce. It will always be half-baked. The only way that we will truly come to the remembrance of fulfillment, where we feel, it's not that we feel validated, affirmed, it's that we just no longer need this kind of validation or affirmation, because the knowing of your own wholeness is a sense of completion, a sense of perfection, just within the simplicity of being. It doesn't mean that I am perfect, I am whole, I am God. It's that there is no person here to take on the assumed role of the I. It's that we discover the true I is the name of God, that I is the glory. And we are here in a quest to find out, what is I? Who is this I in truth? Because once we discover who I really is, we realize it has absolutely nothing to do with the movie and the pictures and the story of the life. There's nothing to be gained from the play of the world. There's nothing to be gained from the play of my life. It is all about discovering and remembering that what you are, who you are, is not what you think you are. Realizing that you are the love that you're seeking for, and really all seeking for affirmation, validation, to be seen, heard, listened to, acknowledged in the play of the world, is all born out of a longing for yourself. But that longing for yourself can only be fulfilled in pure knowledge, can only be fulfilled in the knowing of your own wholeness. And so as these words come, let them be shattered by this news. Let them be shattered, utterly disappointed by this news. It is shattering to the me to realize that all attempts in this life are in vain. But as the me is shattered, there is a glorious light that is shining, that is always here. It is what remains when everything falls apart. There is a light, there is a love that is true, there is a sense of yourself that is whole, that needs nothing, desires nothing, because the pull into yourself is a sense of wholeness and fulfillment and revelation that never gets old, because it is not of time. It never gets old because it is ever fresh, here now. You are here now as the simple silence of being. And here the revelation, here true salvation, here is redemption, here is the glory, here is everything that you are longing for. It is to recognize that what is longed for will never be found in the play of the world. And it doesn't matter how things play in the world. It is just to see that things are playing the way they are playing, and to recognize that the being is never touched, that there is a stillness and a silence that never moves in the face of whatever kind of happenings or adversities can arise in the life. And it is in the adversities that we are tested, because in the pleasure, we're too busy enjoying ourselves and thinking that we're doing something right. So these are not the moments usually of revelation. The moments of revelation generally come when we see through some kind of adversity, when we see through a moment of resistance. And that is why these moments of resistance are such a profound opportunity to meet the patternings of protection, to meet the patternings of resistance, and to feel the distillation happening right here now, alive, as the stress releases, as the patterns of limitation are released, and the unlimited flow of life is recognized to be here, to not be affected, to be flowing, to be vital, to be free, that the stillness is not diminished, that the light is not dimmed, the silence is not disturbed, and that you are ever free as this wide open awake field of simple being, ever silent, ever still, ever here now, never ever disturbed in any way at all. And that life plays and life goes on, and it doesn't matter what happens, that you are not disturbed. You are not the character to which life is happening. You are life itself, flowing and animating the sense of the character. You are that life force that pervades all of life, not just the me and my life, but all of life. And this whole flow of remembrance is about finding yourself in and as everything. As we open to the remembrance of being awareness, being the presence that is ever present, it is one open, awake field. And we start to find in the resonance of openness, the resonance of the alive, awake awareness, that when we are not distracted by the me and my life, that being ever present brings us to an alertness and an awakeness that is present with all of life. And there is a sense of knowing, because we are the intelligence that does know itself in all of life. But it is not that we know what you are thinking, because we're not interested in what you are thinking, because it is irrelevant. It's not that we know what you're up to, because it doesn't matter what you're up to. That is just your mind's meandering. It is that all of life is known as a resonance. So there is a much more natural, generalized sense of everything. There is a sense of knowing everything, because life knows itself, but not in the way the mind imagines. The mind imagines that people are interested in what you are thinking, what you are doing, your story of your past. But no one is. This is the truth. People are only interested in themselves, right? A someone is only interested in itself. It's not really ever interested in you. It's the sad truth. I know it's shattering, but it's the truth that no one is actually interested in you. No one is ever truly listening to you. No one is ever going to see you. No one is ever going to show up for you in the fantasy the way the mind would like. It might seem that way, but it's never going to be the way. That is why it does not matter how beautiful a relationship is, it will always have its places of disappointment until you show up for yourself, until you listen to yourself, until you see yourself, until you are so fully present with yourself. This is the only way that you will start to recognize that you feel listened to, seen, supported, cared for, is because when you show up for yourself, the companions start to reflect that to you, right? Because love just starts loving itself, because that's reality. Reality is this love that just loves itself. So the shattering news is the great glorious revelation, all in the same moment. And if we don't dwell on the shattering news, and we don't fall into the mind's habits to reflect and to move into shame and guilt, if we dwell in the revelation, in the glory of what we are that is not touched in the face of this shattering news. Then grace is here. It's recognized to be here right now. That we can be here as the whole flow of life, knowing itself, awake, aware in the knowing of itself. That who you are is this presence, the silent presence that is ever silent, ever free, ever clear, ever true. And that when you are here with yourself, as yourself, this is all that is needed. You don't need to be a good person. You don't need to be a better person. You don't need to work on being seen, being heard, being understood, because all of this longing is all within your internal functioning. And when you stop looking for those kind of validations and affirmations from the external, and you turn to the internal recognition and remembrance of your true nature, all of those needs and desires and wishes will just fall away, because you are here as yourself. You are seen in the light of the revelation. You are the pure listening, which is the knowing of intelligence. You are the awakeness of the field. The knowing of yourself is all the affirmation and validation that you could ever need. It brings a clarity. It brings a wholeness that does not need anything from the external. You are complete within the knowing of yourself. And so here, you are the love. You are the love that is longed for. You are the wholeness that is undivided reality. And here, the revelation that nothing else is needed. And yet, at the same time, the play of life, the reflection starts to shift to reflect where you are living. And so the love that you are starts to be seen everywhere. The knowing of yourself starts to be seen everywhere, that you just see yourself in everything, everyone. You know yourself in everything, everyone. And so this is why you know what is going on. It's because you're so present with yourself as the flow of intelligence. This is where the revelation is. The mind can imagine that it has some kind of special powers to have a kind of spidey sense about what is going on or what is going to happen. But really, all you are manifesting are your fears, right? So if the mind is thinking, oh, I know what's going to happen, you're going to manifest what you think is going to happen. If you're afraid of something happening, you're going to manifest it. And then the mind is going to say, oh, I knew that was going to happen. It's not a revelation. It's not a special power. It's just that you're thinking about it and you're afraid of it. And you're manifesting a reflection in order to receive that you're afraid of that. So there's grace in it. But the grace is not that you pat yourself on the back because you have just manifested something, or you knew something about someone, or you knew something that was going to happen. All that you knew is that you have a fear and you've created an image of it. You've created a movie of it so that you can receive the grace of feeling what you are afraid of. So it is not to start talking about the play, not to start talking about what you knew was going to happen and how right you were. Because can you feel here how that is separation? Can you feel here how that is division? And it is a kind of pride that is all about selfish gain and a me that wants to be right. In any of these kind of situations, we have to let go, throw it all back into the pot, see it, and recognize that it's in such a situation, all we are being invited into is to recognize that if you knew it was going to happen, that there is your fear manifested, And so receive the feelings of what it feels like to manifest your fear. Be so present as love, allowance, acceptance with what you fear, and transmute it and bring it to love. Be so aware in these kind of situations of taking a position of righteousness, and then talking about your righteousness. It is important. It is important because this is not the way that we move in kindness, in love, in patience. We don't tell tales. We don't tell stories. We don't bask in a sense of righteousness. We recognize that in any such situation is just a graced opportunity to see where we are protected, where we are in fear and limitation, and open to the possibility of transmuting that. This is why we bring forward the invitation that gossip and blame and finger pointing, talking about our companions, is not the way of kindness. It's not the way of truth. It is the way of division, the way of separation. That if you are moving in the play of opposites, gossiping, talking about companions, that is not love. That is not freedom. And if you are longing for love and freedom and to know the love and freedom that you are, it is to catch yourself in such situations where you are talking about, because the opportunity of catching yourself talking about, particularly if there is any kind of projection of blame or any kind of division or unkindness, that in this unfolding, we are unfolding into being the one where there is no problem, there is no wrongdoing, there is nothing ever out of place. And if you find something out of place, that is your opportunity to discover that you are holding a position, that you are trying to control the moment, and you're being offered a graced opportunity to release the reins into the care of God, right? Because whatever is happening that is not to your liking, that is not to your preference, not to the way that you want things to be, it is just showing you that there is some kind of pattern of limitation at play. And this is an opportunity to see it, illuminate it, and allow the releasing of that holding protection into the love that you are in truth. That this is about love, about remembrance, about bliss and wholeness. And anywhere in your life's unfolding that this is not the direct experience, it is a moment that is a graced opportunity, that you are bliss, you are love, there is only bliss, there is only the glory, and you find sanctuary, you find refuge in God, in love. And if you are in a moment where there is not this, it is the love of God offering a reflection of limitation, so that this place of protection, of conditioning, can return to the remembrance of love, of wholeness. And so there is a simple wisdom that is at play. And all that is required is to know yourself in the silence, in the stillness, to know yourself in the glorious revelation of the unmoving, unchanging. That to recognize that in truth you are never touched, never changed, never disturbed by anything that is happening in the play of life. Does not matter what it is. That life is just happening. You are the life. that is just happening. You are not the particulars, and you are not the content of experience. You are, we could say, as the flow of life, you are pure experiencing. Life itself is this pure experiencing of itself. And life experiencing itself is this awake awareness that knows itself just as awareness, regardless of what is happening. That all that is ever known is awareness. Any situation that happens, in truth, all that is known is the awareness. And so it is to recognize this, that the focus can be upon the story and the content, but the importance is that it's all known in awareness, that it is one awake, aware field, and it is in the undivided flow that freedom is known, that freedom always is. Freedom is never restricted, limited, divided, or fragmented in any way. Freedom is always free. And you are this freedom right now. You are the timeless, ever-present freedom of being right now. You are the silence, the stillness. You are the one that is not shattered by all of the news we are delivering today. You are the unmoved, unchanging, unshattered wholeness that is just here, bright and brilliant, blissful and radiant, in the knowing of your true nature, the knowing of the love that you are. That whatever happens that feels like a disturbance, it is just to take refuge in God, take refuge in silence. Nothing else is needed. The transmutation, the allowance, the unraveling of the patterns of limitation, it all happens all by itself. It does not need a micromanager. It does not need a doer. It's a natural flow of intelligence that when you are resting in the refuge of your true silent self, it all happens all by itself. Nothing else is needed in truth. No how-tos, no instructions, because the alive flow of life is where all of that movement and transmutation is happening. It's like a pure flow of clear divine Shakti that is in the process of illuminating and tidying up all of the residues. It is just to rest here and know who you are. As you know who you are not someone that knows who they are. You are just the being, the knowing that just knows. There's no one here. There's just emptiness. There's just simplicity. There's openness. There's timeless wholeness. Just a sense of simple being. And here in the being, it is not that there are not flows of thoughts. It's just that the thoughts don't belong to anyone. They're just flows of intelligence. There can be an imagining that when you are resting in the being that there are no thoughts. It's just that you are the still silent being that is not disturbed by thoughts. It doesn't matter if there are thoughts or not thoughts. They don't belong to anyone. You don't have to make the thoughts go away, and you're not somehow failing at being the being if there are still thoughts flowing around. It's that the being has no thoughts. The being is stillness, silence, the stop, aware of thoughts that come and go. The being itself does not have any thoughts. But there is a flow of intelligence. We could say that the mind finds its cosmic universal nature. It returns to the naturalness. And so there are functional thoughts and creative thoughts. But these are not really thoughts, they are flows of intelligence that allow functioning to happen. They are flows of creativity, flows of creative intelligence that allows creativity to happen. There's no owner of them. There's no doer of actions. It's just a flow of creative intelligence that allows creation to appear, but it doesn't belong to anyone. And so as my mind, my thoughts, my life returns to the unlimited patterning, it's just life itself. But there are still thoughts, functional thoughts that flow, allow for life to live itself. They allow for us to make lists. They allow for us to know how things happen. But we don't need to know with the mind. The functioning just knows. It's an intelligence. Life knows how to live itself. It knows how, because nature knows how. So we just allow nature. And it might seem like thoughts, but when we are we're not in any kind of opposition to the thoughts. We're not taking ownership of the thoughts. We're not being concerned about the thoughts. Oh, the thoughts shouldn't be here. Don't have any thoughts. When there's just a total allowing of everything to be as it is. It's all one. It's all one mechanistic functioning. And you can say things like, I think, I think it's this way. It doesn't really matter. It only matters if there's somebody concerned and worried about it mattering. There's a naturalness to life living itself, which is beyond the mind's understanding. But part of the mind's misunderstanding is that it needs to control the thoughts, or it needs to stop the thoughts, that it needs to be some kind of good person with no thoughts. But all of that is just part of the great misunderstanding. What we speak about is not identifying with the thoughts, not believing the thoughts. Just let it all be there. Let it all happen. Be the being. Find out, is the being concerned about those thoughts? Absolutely not. Does the being want to intervene? Does it come in and intercept? Absolutely not. Find out for yourself that the being has nothing to say about anything. The being just is. The mind, however, has a lot to say about everything. And it has a lot to say about what it thinks this remembrance of true self should be like. But all of that is just to be illuminated as just the mind dressing up, right? It's the policeman, the thief dressing up as the policeman, the mind dressing up as the being, the mind dressing up as a spiritual authority, acting as some kind of illuminated guru for itself, where it really knows nothing about what this is all about. So it is just to turn to the still silent being, the Satguru, the knowledge that knows, the wisdom that knows, and let it all happen. That you don't need to understand a thing. You don't need to do a thing. Do a thing. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to understand anything. You can't do being yourself, right? It's to catch that interceptor, the someone that's trying to be no one, right? The person that's trying to be God, the person that's trying to be good at this, the person that's desperately trying to be empty of content, but the person can't do it. It's natural, it's effortless, it's all here. You don't gotta try a thing. You don't gotta do anything. It's just to be here. Just confirm the simplicity of silent being. Just confirm that the simple silent being is silently awake and aware. Affirmative. But there's not someone that's ticking the boxes. Yeah, I got it. I got it down. This time, I got it. right? The affirmation is the confirmation in the heart of being. It's the glory. It's the dissolution of the me. It's the tenderness. It's the surrender. It's the glory of being no one. It's the emptiness of just being here. Simple, silent, still, natural. And there's such an aliveness here because the resonance of what you are comes alive in the presence of itself. It comes alive in the illuminated presence of itself. It comes alive in the resonance of remembrance. It comes alive, and it's so alive that the mind might say, oh, goodness me, what's this? What's this aliveness all about? Something's wrong. Something's wrong. Feels like my head's going to explode. Feels like my hands are big and pounding. It feels like every cell is vibrating. This the glory, this the goodness, this the revelation of true aliveness, vitality resonating in every cell of your being, every fiber of your being. This, the truth of who you are. Don't try to dampen it. Don't try to dim it. Don't try to contain it back within the sense of me that's got it all under control. Be the aliveness, be the freedom, be the explosion. Find out that you don't need to contain yourself. What would you contain yourself in? What kind of box would you put yourself in? What kind of position might you hold? What might you try to control? Who would try to control anything? Who would try to contain or box or limit the unlimited? Who are you? Right? Who? The true resonance of who is the resonance of the glory. When we truly ask who, the revelation is here. Who is the silence? Who? It's like Om, right? Who? It's the stop. We don't need to go any further. Just be here. Stop looking as a me. Stop looking as a mind. And just be here. Looking as a me will give you a headache. Looking as a me will make you feel really frustrated because you can't find it. Looking as a me will make you feel like your head is going to explode because you're trying so hard. But looking as a heart, looking as a being, who the glory of being nothing, of being no one, of not finding any answers, of just being here, being the revelation, being the naturalness, not being anything, anyone, not finding an answer to the question who. Being the who is to be the I. It just is. The isness, the amness, without trying to understand and complicate it. The coolness, the freedom. Right? It's so different to the heat and the frustration of the anger of not getting it. The coolness, the freedom. Right? It's just like a breeze, a cool breeze, just blowing in. just to give it all up. Give it all up to God. Give it all up to this moment. Just give it all up and just be here. Know nothing. Just be here. Just to let it all go. Don't try to let go. Don't try to surrender. Don't try to do anything. We could say that the only sense of effort is to bring an effort to not effort. The effort is just to be here. I am, just being the awake awareness that's watching. I am, just being. The simplicity is to keep allowing the attention to rest. The effort is just to be here. Let the attention rest. Let the awareness be aware of nothing but itself. Just to be here. Just to be here. Empty, open, freedom. Not to be someone, to be no one. That when you find nothing here, alleluia, don't let the mind tell you, there's nothing here, you better go back and try and find something. You better bring something back. No, no, no. Who are you? Let go of the one that wants to try to find something. Let go of being the one that's trying to get it right. Let go of being the one that is trying to be the being, and just be the being, simple and free. Just be here, just as you are, natural and open. Stop rushing around. Stop imagining that you're busy. Stop imagining that you need to please people, that you need to please anyone, that you need to keep connections of love that are really just part of the whole play of the movie. Love yourself, not by creating new age spiritual ideas of self-love, but by being the love. Do not rest in mediocre places of spiritual misunderstanding about self-love and self-compassion. Do not rest in these places of spiritual ideas and moods. Do not stop with this quest until you know the love that you are, without question, without any kind of external confirmation, until you are shining and radiant as the knowing of the love, where there is no question, that you do not need an external permission, validation, affirmation. You do not need to be controlling anything, that the knowing of this love that you are is so supreme in its resonance that you are freedom itself. Because hear the love, hear the knowing that every companion that you are looking to create connection with, to be seen by, to be heard by, to be validated by, every companion is in essence the same love. Meet in the love. Do not rest in false social ideas of relationship. Meet in the love, as the love, and do not rest until you find this truth of who you are. Do not be content with pleasure. Do not be content with social pleasantries. Rest in the silence until the truth of this love is known, where you are radiant and shining and no words are needed. And sure, enjoy the companionship. Enjoy the companionship, But do not allow companionship to be a hiding place where the me feels validated, where the me feels seen. See yourself, know yourself, and know that truly we have to move through a certain kind of aloneness in order to truly come to this. We have to move through a sense of inner loneliness and then inner aloneness, where we start to discover the revelation in aloneness, that if we are not able to be alone, we will not come to freedom, because we have to walk through the wilderness of aloneness. And that doesn't mean not being in the relationships that are out here. It's within your inner functioning. Everyone is lonely, whatever they say. Everyone is lonely because everyone is longing for their self. Everyone is longing to know wholeness. We have to meet our own loneliness by not trying to fill up the cup of loneliness with these false kind of relationships that give the ego a sense of, it's really like a numbing, right? They're false surface relationships. Don't fill the cup with these kind of relationships. Be willing to have an empty cup of loneliness, inner loneliness. And it doesn't matter if you're married, you're still lonely if you don't know yourself, right? It's wonderful that you can have companionship, but the truth is, until we know ourselves, there's a loneliness. Everyone has it. There's nothing to be ashamed of. There's a loneliness. And that when we really meet that loneliness and we allow that cup of loneliness to be recognized to be the grace of true aloneness, and we stop trying to fill this cavity, this absence, and we recognize that the sense of absence that is a sense of loneliness is actually the grace that is guiding us to stop being in a mind's idea of loneliness, that we want a relationship, that we want more friends, that we want this, that we want that, that we allow the emptiness to be discovered to be the grace of aloneness. Because in the wilderness of our inner aloneness, we shift the perspective from the me that feels lonely to the open, graced spaciousness of inner aloneness. And when we welcome this wilderness within, and we come to be able to meet the feelings of loneliness without numbing and filling the cup with half-baked cookies, right? We stop trying to fill the cup with mediocre companionships. We just let go of all of that drivel, right? We just say, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. Just don't do it. Just see there's a doer there trying to make a little cozy life there. Be in the loneliness, meet the feelings of loneliness. As we meet the feelings of loneliness, we come to recognize there's this glorious aloneness where you start to love. You start to love and find revelation in your own company. You start to find grace in your own company. You start to find how fun you are, how fun it is to hang out all by yourself. And then as you walk through this wilderness and you have the capacity to be in the true aloneness, you start to create the reflection of companionships that are not shallow and like this numbing like, plastering over a crack all the time. You start to create the reflection of wholesome companionships that are a reflection of your wholeness. That you start to create companionships where the beings that you're in companionship with have a sense of wholeness, or that you just don't need anything from anyone. You don't need to be seen in the same way. You don't need to be validated. You don't have the same kind of expectations, because you're meeting in the love. You're meeting in a sense of aloneness. We could say that you're alone together and together alone in a healthy relationship, right? So it's not about that you need to leave whatever life circumstances. It's recognizing that you're not that character that's in that life circumstance. You're this being that's untouched, and you're in this inner functioning of clearing the residues of attachment, so that you can come to recognize that inner loneliness, and that you don't see it as some kind of failing or lack or deficiency, because there we meet the deficiency, right? We meet the story of lack, which is the human condition. Wherever we come to the root and we find the story of lack, we know that the human condition is here, that protection is here. If you feel like you're somehow lacking or missing in this area, you need to join some more clubs. You need to get more hobbies. It's like, no. Enough already. Enough of the hobbies. Enough of the clubs. Enough online gatherings, right? It's come to the loneliness. Come to the aloneness. Come to the silence. Don't fill your cup with more noise. Resonate in the silence of the empty cup, the hollowness, the absence, because the absence of someone is the glory of your being. The absence of someone, the resonance, that hollow resonance is like the cathedral of silence of your true heart, the true wonder of who you are. But you have to learn to be comfortable again with such an aloneness, such a wilderness. Because when we come to aloneness, we're coming to the oneness. We are one with all. We're in the knowing of a oneness with all. But it takes away the sense of need, the sense of attachment. It takes away too the sense of aversion, right? So we're not attached, but we're also not averse, right? We're not hating it all and aggravated by it all, right? It takes away the sense of jealousy and envy. It takes away the sense of ignorance and arrogance. It takes away all of these protections, because we're coming to a wholeness, a remembrance of the glory of wholeness. And this wholeness is in the silence, in the stillness. There's nothing more beautiful than being in companionship and recognizing, oh, we're in our companionship here. We're drifting into a sense of being stuck in our stuff, or now we're meeting in the love, right? There's, you are reporting to me how when you are in companionship with each other, that you're noticing these places. How beautiful that you can be true and honest, and you can show up and say, oh, let's not go, let's not carry on that route, right? If you're noticing that you're talking about others, that you're gossiping, that you're telling stories about others, these are the places that you want to notice. Let's not do this. This is separation. This is protection. this is not truth. Let's stop this. Be the one that stops it. Be the one that illuminates it within the companionships, particularly within the Sangha. Be the one that says, no, let's not do this. Let's not talk about others unkindly. Let's not gossip. Let's recognize that there's something here that wants to be seen, and let's support each other to see and receive the possibility here, right? This is the glory of really opening and coming to a clarity where there's such a willingness, because there's no defense. There's not a need to be seen in a certain way. There's no one trying to be right. There's no one trying to be seen as someone that's got this, that, or the other. There's no one trying to control it. So let our companionships in the Sangha be like this, so that there's this flow and this clarity, that nobody's trying to prove themselves. No one's trying to be right. There's no right or wrong. There's nothing to win. There's no winner takes it all, right? It's about meeting as the love, meeting where there are no opposites, meeting in the clarity, recognizing that there's no winner, there's no loser, there's no victim, there's no perpetrator. There's no one that's getting it right. There's no one that's getting it wrong. There's just love. And the maturing is the willingness to show up as the love and say, oh, this doesn't feel clear. Let's stop here, right? It's to be the frequency of a purer consciousness, and to not, this is where we speak about not collaborating with separation. It's to have the courage to shine, have the courage to be the pure consciousness, have the courage to be a finer frequency that stops the collaboration with separation. Have the courage to say, no, I won't speak about people like this. No, I won't collaborate with you when you say that. Have the courage to be the light. Have the courage to be the light of truth that says no to that, right? That says there's something here. There's something here that wants to be seen. Have the courage to not be disturbed if your companion is triggered. Have the courage to stay fully present if your companion is triggered. And have the courage to stay fully present if you're the one that's triggered because the companion is pointing to something, right? This is the way that we want to move, right? This is the way that we want to move. We're starting to bring forward here things that are really important as we come together in the next short while in person for retreat. It's starting to naturally come forward as reminders and illuminators. But it doesn't matter. It's not only about that. It's for everyone, everywhere, whatever is happening. To be able to recognize where we collaborate with separation, telling tales, speaking unkindly about companions, that's not truth. That's not what we're here for, right? It's okay if it happens because it's part of the play. But if you're part of those kind of conversations, you're going to start to feel contracted and limited. You might feel like, oh, I'm feeling very righteous, patting yourself on the back for being right. But that's not the freedom that we're here for. That's not kindness. That's not love, right? That's division. We're here for love. We're here to show up as love, to be illuminated in the light of love, and to be willing to let go of our fears controlling patterns, holding patterns and positions into love, right? We're here to remember the love that we are, to love each other, to meet as the love, and to love each other as we are opening and flowering, to not be judging and having opinions, to know that everything that is playing is always playing perfectly. And if you don't like it, then you have to find out what it is about you that doesn't like it. Right? That's your work. You don't like it? That's your work. You're uncomfortable? That's your work. Things aren't going your way? That's your work, right? And sometimes your work is to speak honestly, right? Reveal yourself, risk revealing something, right? It's to move honestly. It's to move truthfully. It's to move naturally, right? And to know that sometimes we will all trip, and that's okay. It's to be kind in the tripping, right? It's to be kind, whatever's happening, because love only knows love, and everything that seems to not be love is just like a little shadow that is waiting to be illuminating. It's illuminated. It's just something that is wanting to come to love, right? So let's love it. But the way that we love it is sometimes that we have to shine a light that might seem a little fierce, or it might seem like you have to say, no, stop, right? It might take some courage to really show up for yourself. But those moments are huge, and you're going to find that you feel hot and you're going to feel a lot of energy moving. You're going to, because you're breaking a conditioning to not just go along with these habitual ways of speaking about people, talking about people, being unkind, telling stories, just to be, I mean, sometimes to mention like a celebration of someone, it is slightly different. But even then, it can be really good to not mention anybody that's not in the room, right? It's different if it's a celebration, a reflection of how beautiful this something is that's right here. But as we're opening to this, it can be very useful to just have a little marker to say, what if you only speak about who's present? Because this also offers an invitation to have more intimacy and truth in the companionship, because the worldly way of connecting is to talk about others, and talk about other things. But if you don't talk about others, what do you talk about? Yeah, things get a whole lot more quiet. And can you be together comfortably with the quietness? Can you be together comfortably in the quietness? Can you just allow the flow of life to happen? Can you allow conversations just to happen that are to do with maybe functional or creativity, or without judging it, but to really notice where a sense of division comes in, a sense of clunky separation comes in. These are precious opportunities when they arise. It's not that there's anything wrong, but it is a precious opportunity. Everything that feels to be divided is in the process of returning to the remembrance of love. And the love is already here. The clarity, the silence is already here. And when we stop, there's a remembrance of this. A remembrance that you're not in a process. You're not someone that's in a process. A remembrance that you are the love, the being that is here, that already knows itself, that is already whole. And in the silence, in the stillness, in the recognition of what is not moving and changing, you recognize the oneness where we are the same, that we share the same silence, the same stillness, the same love, the same glory. And we so too share the same sky. Right? We share the same heart. And we share this heart with God, the glory, not as an entity or someone or something that is divided, but that God is the undivided. Ma is the undivided, the light, the bliss, the wholeness that is divine purity that has never ever been fragmented, even subtly, in any way at all. And so here in the stop, here in the stillness, here in the simple presence, everything that you are is right here. You are whole. It is just about remembering, recognizing, recognition, realization. It's not a process. It's a spontaneous, timeless remembrance. Here now, here now, here now, ever fresh. This. And the more that there's a remembrance, the remembrance doesn't seem to come and go. It never comes and goes. It seems to come and go because the attention wanders. But when attention rests in the stillness, in the silence, when awareness is just aware of itself, attention is resting, and awareness is just aware of itself, the sense of what you are is just simply being. Simple being. Here now. This is the glory. This is the grace. And you are it. You always are. You're never, ever away from yourself. So it is just to keep illuminating as the light. None of it matters. Nothing that happens matters. But if you don't know that, then you are bound by what happens. Once you know the truth, that you're in the remembrance, life continues, but it just doesn't matter. But it also does start to shift because things get simpler. Whatever has to play out will play itself out, but it doesn't matter. The simplicity is that you are the simplicity. And so the patterns of complexity, the patterns of protection just fall away. This is what is in the process. The patterns of protection, the obscurations are falling away. These camouflages, these veilings that are not even really there are falling away because the light is illuminating. Oh, there's nothing there. Oh, there's nothing there, right? Every time we think there's some kind of big catastrophe or resistance or something happening, we stop and we allow the feelings, we just allow the moment to be as it is. The patterns of limitation start to unravel, and without a story, the limitation unravels, and what is recognized in the transmutation is that there's nothing actually there. All that is real is yourself. So, this is the great, glorious good news. Let us dwell in the great, glorious good news and not in the shattering news, the disappointments of the mind. Let us not go towards the guilts and the shames and the deficiency stories. Let us illuminate all of the ways that those try to play out and take a hold, and rest in the glorious light and wholeness of just simply being, the silence, the stillness, the unchanging, undisturbable, ever fresh presence of being yourself.